Okay, so today I'm going to answer 3 questions that have come in from viewers of this channel or people that follow us on various different social media platforms. The questions that I'm going to be answering today are going to cover universal credit, they're going to cover why you're struggling to find a job and the value of a degree in today's world. This is actually the second video in a series that we are going to do on me answering 3 questions and giving you my opinion or my answers on those questions. So this is very much a Q&A style. If you do have any questions that you want me to answer for forthcoming videos, do put them in the comments below. We do videos aimed to help employees, and that's employees either seeking work or those already in work. The style and approach we go with for our videos is very much to give you an honest, straightforward opinion, no kind of sugarcoating it, so you get a real picture of how things actually are. If you like this kind of content, do consider subscribing to our channel, and if you do, make sure you click the bell icon so you're not going to miss any one of our forthcoming videos. Our business is a recruitment company which specialises in finding engineers and technical type people for our clients. It has nothing to do with universal credit. It bears no relevance to our model as a business, just isn't anything to do with us. The reason why I did a universal credit video in the first place was it was conceived, produced and broadcast in about April 2020, and at the time the first UK lockdown had come into play in this country, and at the time myself, like many other people, were in a position where there was a lot of worry about whether the company would go under, whether I'd be out of work. Many other people who had never been on universal credit before could be in the same position in the future or upcoming at that point, and it was quite a scary period of time. And I had to therefore explore the option that I may have to, if my company went under and I lost everything, that I'd have to go and claim universal credit. But to try and get that information was quite difficult to find. Yes, the government website did display it all, but it wasn't exactly very simple and easy to follow, and a lot of the questions that I actually wanted answered weren't on there. It was kind of a general one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So I had to do a lot of research to try and find out the answers to the questions that I wanted to know. And I simply found out that a lot of other people wanted to know the answers to the same questions that I did. So I decided, with all that information, to do a video that I could put out there simply to try and help people that had not faced being on universal credit before and wanted the same questions answered in a simple, easy to follow format as I did. So put it simply, it's just not something we do as a business. It was purely as a kind of help video that was put out there at a particular time when people would have needed it. If you're struggling to find a job, the first thing I'd probably say is to look at, one, your approach of how you're going about it, and secondly, the CV that you're presenting to people. If I'm being honest with you, in the market that we're in at the moment of filming, this is being filmed in February 2022, the market is unbelievable. The unemployment rates that will probably be released will be the lowest in a long, long time in this country. So if you're struggling to find a job, there's probably 3 things that I would say are obviously hindering you. The first of which would be the CV, the second of which is going to be to do with your approach, and the third of which is probably your career history and how it looks to a potential employer. But let's start with a CV. We did do a video on how to write a CV. If you haven't seen that, click the video there or click the link there. It will give you all the information you need in plain, simple English how to write a CV. How more people haven't watched that video, I've got no idea, because it just answers this as simply as possible. What you are presenting to potential people is the thing that they're going to see first. And most people do not, who are hiring managers or decision makers, do not spend 5 minutes reading your CV on a first glance. They'll spend about 5 to 10 seconds looking at it. If your CV doesn't grab them right away, then you're probably not going to have much chance, and they'll file it BIN, which is code for they're going to chuck it in the bin. Watch that video, it will give you the advice you need. The second thing that is important if you are struggling to find a job and what you need to do to sort it out is your approach of how you're going about it. If you are applying for every job under the sun, and this is one of the issues that I have with the job centre, if you go in there and you say to them, I'm looking for a job, their advice, which is absolutely idiotic, is to go and apply for every job under the sun. And the simple reason it's awful advice is because what happens is any hiring company will have a recruitment program internally or a recruitment agency will take all your CVs from job boards. And what job boards will do is tell us and flag up how many jobs you've applied for. If you've been applying for every job under the sun that have nothing specifically to do with the job that you've applied for here, it just looks like you're absolutely desperate. And if we hired you, what's the risk then of you just taking the job so you can fill a gap and using that time to just look for another job? It just says very desperate. It doesn't indicate what you're exactly after. And companies, when they're trying to hire people, are looking for people that are going to stay in a job that therefore they're going to get a return on. They don't want someone staying in a job 6 months later, they're leaving. I know that some social media platforms will tell you that the modern hiring managers will be perfectly happy to look at someone who's had 5 jobs in 3 years. Trust me, they don't. They don't like it. It's, again, useless advice. In the real world, if you are just applying for every single job and it looks like you're going to be high risk, it will put people off. In your CV and in your approach, you want to be specifically targeting certain types of jobs to try and give yourself a better chance. If the first thing someone looks at on your CV is that you are looking specifically to try and get into the job that they're trying to hire for, it will grab their attention. And if your approach is then to try and systematically work through, right, I'm going to go through this industry and try and do all these types of jobs first, then I move on to that, then I move on to that, you're much more likely to have a better chance of finding a job pretty quickly. The third thing is your career history. If your career history basically says, again, you've had 5 jobs in 3 years, 10 jobs in 7 years, it will come back to bite you in the backside. It just will. And I understand, again, that social media will sit there and say, look, it's fine, you had loads of jobs. That is absolute nonsense. Social media will paint a very fake picture of how things work in reality. If you are an employer and you are paying a recruitment agency a fee for somebody, if you think that person's going to be leaving in 6 months' time, it is not going to represent very good value for money. So they won't want to pay a fee for it. If you are applying directly for that company themselves, they're going to have to put their own time, money and effort into training and developing you and integrating you into their business. If you are going to leave after 6 months, it doesn't look good either way. So those 3 things you need to address if you want to have any chance of securing a job in the short term. In my opinion, the value of a degree isn't what it was, and it's been diminished substantially over the last couple of decades in terms of the value that it actually has to the workforce. I don't know the exact statistics, but it's around 50% of people that have left schooling education have gone on to get a degree over the last couple of decades. Just from the simple maths, the amount of people that have gone on to get it have led to it being devalued in terms of the opinion of it to a potential employer. Unless you are getting a first or a 2-1 from a red brick university, which is basically one of the top 15 universities in the UK, and you're doing it either in a specialist subject like medicine or law or something, or you're doing it in a big general subject like English, maths, science, something along those lines, the value of it really doesn't hold the same weight that it did. You have to be at the elite level to have it have that value to a potential employer. And you've got to bear in mind that most people these days, when they leave a degree, they'll have an average debt saddled with that degree of around £40,000. That's a lot of money for effectively something that doesn't hold the same value as it used to. And the government has peddled it out because they get an awful lot of money from people doing degrees. In my opinion, you don't need a degree if you want to get your foot in the door. It just says, for most degrees, that you've committed to something for 3 years and you're reasonably intelligent. That's the foot in the door that it gives you. It doesn't give you any more than that. In my opinion, I'd probably suggest for people to look at an apprenticeship program in something that is in demand and future-proof. If you want my tip, it would be to do an apprenticeship in a software-related subject. That's where the money is, certainly for the future. If you don't want to go into that, I get it, but if you want to go into something that's going to be future-proof, where there's loads of money in it and you're sorted for your career, go and do an apprenticeship in software development. That is the area you want to get into, really. Hopefully with that, I've answered those 3 questions and you enjoyed this video. I want to try and do a few more of these and get into it a little bit more moving forward, because I like answering stuff. I like engaging what the audience wants to know. So if you do have any questions for me or you want anything answered in future, do put them in the comments below and I will do my best to incorporate them in a future video. Thank you very much for watching, and one final thing, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do subscribe and click the bell icon so you won't miss any one of our forthcoming videos.